Story time about this guy who was harassing his ex-girlfriend at the bar I worked at. I work in a sports bar and grill in a reasonably small town. We're a popular hangout for local college kids that's one of the only spots with a full bar and some decent grub. I love this because contrary to popular belief, young people are usually better tippers and just all around more pleasant to their servers than the older crowd. One drawback though is they're certainly more dramatic than the older crowd. With these college kids, it's often either the best thing to spot your friends out and they get loud and excitable, or there's some rift between the groups and they get loud and excitable. For example, we had a college-age couple that came in a bunch almost every weekend. Then they split up. I see the guy from time to time getting loaded with his buddies, but the girl stopped coming in altogether. I figure she only came because he was bringing her here. On Friday, we were having ladies' night and she comes in with a small group of girls. There were maybe 5 altogether. They sat down at a booth and ordered some cheap drinks and kept to themselves. Fast forward like half an hour, this guy and his buddies come in. Without realizing, they take seats at the bar directly adjacent to this girl in her booth. I didn't recognize them as the couple at first, but the guy spotted her and let's just say it became immediately clear who left who. Despite what he said, he started in with all these passive-aggressive and loud comments to his pals about how glad he was he dropped that fat bitch who was weighing him down, looking desperately over his shoulder hoping that she'd overhear him. She didn't, or if she did, she ignored him. He kept going with the insults for another moment or two before he got into some derogatory stuff about her breast specifically, and the bartender told him he had to keep it down because he was bothering people. The night went on and all parties involved got more drunk, his a lot more than hers. But she and her friends ignored him. Eventually, they got up to go dance and he quickly follows. I was lingering around, bringing drinks to people and keeping tabs to be sure nothing escalated. This poor girl, he was really tearing into her. The especially psycho thing is he alternated between insulting her and begging her to take him back. You fat ugly bitch, I never wanted to be with you in the first place. I was with all my exes while we were together. And you'll never do better than me, so you should take this chance while you have it. We can start over. I forgive you. From this pathetic guy in the same string of conversation. She kept blowing him off and her friends who were taking notice kept breaking it up and relocating themselves. I was seconds away from having our bouncer spring him, but he seemed to cool off. However, that only lasted until she came to the bar where he followed her, but something amazing happened next. Part 2 of the guy who was harassing his ex-girlfriend at the bar I work at. So it only lasted until she came to the bar, not anywhere near him mind you, to get herself another drink. He starts saying all this stuff about, you think anyone will ever want you like that? You can have me or you can have nothing. And I don't even want you. You were the worst decision I ever made. I don't even know why I'm giving you this chance. And on, until he's cut off by, what are you saying to my girl, bro? A towering guy sat down, put his arm around her and was like, sorry I'm late, babe. Practice kept dragging. Can I help you, son? He was 10 times more put together, better spoken, better dressed, way less effing sad or terrifying than the guy who'd been bothering her all night. The pathetic one was so drunk at this point that he didn't recognize he was outmatched and started launching into this incoherent screaming of, she's a skank, whore, B, and you better not touch her cause she's mine. To which the towering, calm guy stood up, took his jacket off and said, without raising his voice, oh, so we have a problem? This guy's friends noticed the situation and came to collect him at this point, just before one of our staff could intervene. But this new guy followed him over to his friends. He got right in his face and said, if you have a problem with her, then you have a problem with me, so I think it's time to bounce. Drunk guy wasn't having any of it, but his friends were smarter, or at least more sober, and knew they didn't want trouble. Once they were gone, new guy went back over to his girl and says, hi, nice to meet you. My name's Isaiah. Sorry to get all involved like that. I hope I didn't overstep. It's just, I could not listen to another second of that. Seriously, that guy is scary. That's why I went with the boyfriend thing instead of saying, hey, you suck, time to go. I've got 3 sisters and he set off all my alarm bells. At this point, I'm stunned. I was wondering who'd bring a date to ladies' night. They'd never even met. He was just a stranger who stepped in to protect her. After this, they chatted a bit and he walked her out. They were back here for their first date today. As much as it pains me to say this, before my daughter turned 17, I didn't feel any love for her. I didn't even like her, really. She certainly thought I did, but on the inside, I just couldn't feel anything but annoyance towards her. She was very manipulative and needed constant attention. I know that this is a common feeling in parents, but I feel so ashamed to actually say it out loud. 2 particularly traumatic instances for me were one, where I was going through an extremely tough time and she wasn't there for me. She never gave me support or comfort that I needed, and there is no worse feeling than being betrayed by family. She was a teenager and old enough to know better. And 2, there was a period when she was really pestering me to take her to a psychologist, and one time I caught her forcing herself to throw up. I didn't know what to do and felt completely helpless. She's 18 now and lots better. She almost never complains about anything and is always there when I need a shoulder to cry on. My 2 older children were visiting last night and we were discussing family memories. And while we were joking, I mentioned in passing to her, you really fucked me up good. She asked what I meant and I told her about the 2 incidents I mentioned before. She got quiet and eventually said, you know, I really needed your help back then and you just wouldn't. I told her that I needed her help too, but she came back with, I'm your daughter. I told her, yes, and I'm your mother. What's your point? She ended up going home with her older sister and she won't return any of my calls. Her older sister called and told me that I had really hurt her last night and that I needed to apologize. I personally don't feel like I owe my daughter anything. She abused me her whole life. Am I the asshole for not understanding? I'm 28 and babysit on the weekends to make some extra cash. There's this one family that I should have phased out by now, but the kids are cute and I don't have another job, so it's easy money. My issue is the mom is never home on time. She used to not give me return times, but I finally started asking as it made it impossible for me to get anything done on the weekends. I'd go babysit so she could have brunch, but she'd be gone from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. My whole day was gone. After that, she'd start giving me times but never stick to them. She wouldn't even call to tell me, she'd just stay out. On Saturday, I got to her house at 6 and she was supposed to be home by 9. I told her that she needed to be home on time because I had plans to go out with friends. I was even getting ready at their house after I put the kids to bed. She promised. Of course, 9 rolls around and she's not home. I call her, no response. Text, no response. Another hour. Still nothing. I was still calling and texting. Finally, it's midnight. By this point, my plans are long ruined, but I'm pissed and exhausted. I call her and leave a voicemail saying that if she's not home in the next hour, I'm considering the kids abandoned and calling the cops. I also texted her this. I try calling her 30 minutes later and it goes to voicemail on the second ring. I text her again and she leaves me on red. If she had reached out saying, hey, I'm staying out until X time, I would have stayed. I don't know any of her family nor the father of the kids, so I can't call them. I gave her a grace period of 15 minutes and tried calling again, and finally called the cops, the non-emergency line though. They showed up and I showed our agreement in text from earlier in the week confirming that she'd be home by 9. They tried contacting her, didn't answer. I was dismissed and they took the children to the police station. I go home and go to bed. I'm awoken at 3 a.m. by a frantic call. It's her. Where are the kids? Why am I not here? I told her that I followed through with my threat and to check the police station. She cursed me out and I hung up and went to bed. The next day, she sends me an essay saying the kid's father called and there's a DCF investigation launched against her. She called me every name under the sun, but I didn't think I was wrong until I spoke to a friend with kids. She said I should have waited it out and refused to ever sit for her again. She asked if her potentially losing her kids was worth me being petty. Am I the asshole for calling the police on my client?